Bismillah, in this video I will be talking to you about Chapter 4, Section 5, which is Perception. Do your eyes sometimes play tricks on you? Actually, your eyes are not to blame. So, who's to blame? In this video we will discuss what is perception, rules of perceptual organization, perception of movement, stroboscopic motion, depth perception, perceptual constances, and visual illusions. Let's start with what is perception. Simply, perception is a way in which we organize or make sense of our sensory impressions. Our perception is based on our experiences and expectations. Let us see rules of perceptual organization. The whole is more than the sum of its parts. By this principle, Gestalt psychologists noted many different ways in which people make sense of sensory information. These ways are called rules of perceptual organization, such as closure, figure ground perception, and other rules of organization. Look at this image, please. Are you seeing blotches of ink or a dog? If you perceive the dog, or what you are doing is filling in the blanks to make it a familiar pattern. This is the principle of closure, which is the tendency to perceive a complete figure even when there are gaps. Now, look at this image, specifically the black color. Yes, it's a vase. Now, look at the background or the white color. Yes, there are two faces. This is the figure ground perception, which is the perception of figures against a background. Now, do you see 6 columns or 3 pairs of columns? If you said 3 pairs of columns, therefore you are influenced by the law of proximity or nearness. Now, do you perceive it at 8 columns or 4 columns of circles and 4 of squares? If you said 4 columns of circles and 4 of squares, then you are grouping by the law of similarity, which says that people think of similar objects as belonging together. What about this image? Are you seeing a group of half circles, every other one turned down, or a wavy and straight line? If you saw the wavy and straight line, then you are organizing your perceptions according to the continuity rule. The last rule in perceptual organization is the common fate. Have you ever seen a flock of birds like this? Flying together in the same direction? You assume that they are one group. They are flying to the same place. And they have a common fate. Now with perception of movement. Let's imagine that you are in a car and waiting in a traffic light, and the car beside you begins to move forward. Do you think at first that your car is a moving one? Yes, it's confusing to know whether your car is moving backward or the other car is moving forward. Therefore, to be able to sense movement, you need to see an object changing its position relative to constant objects like pavements, buildings, or trees. Now with my favorite part in this section, let us see stroboscopic motion. First, let's see a video. I will be back in a minute. Wow, it seems really moving. This is exactly stroboscopic motion, which is produced by showing rapid progression of images that not moving at all. Let's move to depth perception. The depth that I mean is the distance away, not the depth of a hole or a mine. For example, if you decide how far away a glass of juice is from you, can you reach out and pick it up? Or you have to get out of your chair? Briefly, depth perception is the determination of how objects are from you. There are many factors that affect depth perception. For example, if you take two objects which are the same size, one is far away and the other is nearby, the far away object will be smaller than the other. Therefore, our perception of a familiar object size also becomes acute to its distance from us. Also, the clearness of an object helps in telling us how far the object is. Nearby objects appear to be clearer. Therefore, the clearer is the closer, right? Let's move to other point. Take a look at this picture. Which of these two circles appear closer? The red or the blue circle? The red circle. I agree with you. Let's see why. Overlapping is a perception of an object as being in front of another object by blocking our view of more distant objects. So that's why we saw circle A nearer. Shadows and highlights also affect depth perception. Notice this image? The circle on the right seems to be closer, right? It's according to its highlight and shadow. Object texture is less apparent farther away. Let's take a look at a picture to illustrate. Focus your attention on this flower. Look at how detailed it is. Now, let's focus farther out. A lot of details are lost. Therefore, your brain says,
okay, the farther away I'm looking, the less texture I will be able to see.
And it uses this information to judge depth. What about doing something together? Now, hold the finger, then slowly bring it until it almost touches your nose. You will seem to see two fingers. An image of the finger will be projected on the retina of each eye. Each image will be different because you see it from different angles. This difference is referred to as retinal disparity, and it uses as a cue of depth. Let us move to perceptual constances. Imagine if you are leaving school and your friends are waiting for you under a tree some distance away. As you run over to them, they look closer and look larger. Why do you not think your friends are really growing in inches? The reason is you know your friends are not actually getting taller by the second. Therefore, each person's experience creates perceptual constancies. Now with size constancy. Size constancy is the tendency to perceive an object as having one size, no matter how far the object is. Imagine if you are in a very high building, you saw people look like ants, but you still know that they are people. Therefore, through experience, people acquire a sense of size constancy. It's time to talk about color constancy. Imagine if you are in the cinema and wearing a tan t-shirt. This is the tan color. In the cinema, you found your t-shirt turned gray. Is that believable? Because of your previous experience, you perceived your t-shirt as remaining tan. For color constancy is the tendency to perceive objects as keeping their color even though different lights. Now with brightness constancy. Take a look at this picture. Does the square inside the dark blue square look brighter than the other? If it does, it's because we judge the brightness of an object according to the brightness of objects around it. So, the brightness constancy is the tendency to perceive objects as having equally bright, even when the light around it changes. Now with shape constancy. Shape constancy refers to the ability to perceive objects as having constant shape, despite receiving different sensory images. Look at the image. Shape constancy helps us see the door as a rectangle as it opens. Because of this, we may think the red shapes on screen are also rectangles. Now with visual illusions, and let's start with multi-layer illusion. If two objects seem to be the same size, the farther away object must be larger than it actually seems. To make it easier, let's see a picture. Look at these two lines. It seems that the second line with its reversed arrows is taller than the first. Why? Because it reminds us of how far a corner of a loom looks, while the line on the left reminds us of the outside near corner of a building. Finally, the ponzo illusion. In this image, do you perceive the top line as being longer? If so, you assume from experience that the horizontal line at the top is farther away from you. The rule of size constancy is at work again. And now we have reached the end of this video. Thanks for watching and see you later!